It's in an interesting spot, like Nate was talking about. In StarCraft, a lot of times when these races kind of fall behind in the meta or having a tough time in a matchup, that's when they start to get pretty weird. The matchup kind of destabilizes, which creates these weird numbers. So I'm not saying that, you know, Neeb's going to fall here, but if you're Epic and you're looking to get a win against one of the hottest players in the world, I don't think you go for the I'm going to try to outplay you. I don't think you go for the this is a straight up meta thing.
Already, everything that we need. We're loaded into the game. This guy sent in an SCV across the map. Okay. It's Epic. He's playing against the Red Protoss in the southeast. He's Neeb. And this just doesn't surprise me at all because Neeb is such a favored player in a matchup like this. You have to just do something crazy. And sometimes I would say you could go full NA, but Neeb is also NA. Yeah. So you're using scissors against scissors, and it's you just gotta have to catch him off guard somehow.
Well, it's interesting. Neeb plays the majority of his games when he's back home, which is, I believe, in the New York area.
Yeah.
He still plays most of his games on the European server. That's where there's a higher percentage of top-notch players, and the latency's not too bad. Oh, this is going to get... Yeah. No, that's blue.
Northeast U.S. latency to Europe is like 100 milliseconds. It's not bad at all.
So he's American. We get to claim that, but he trains in Europe or Korea for the most part. Which is kind of funny, because then when you do go through the murky waters of the NA WCS system, you run into these things where it's like, I don't know. Epic's kind of like a former version of Neeb, by the way. Neeb was a Terran player that was really good and had great control, but was also like hyper-aggressive and kind of a North American Terran.
Yeah. So Neeb's probe is going to scout, and he's going to see, okay, well, there's no barracks here immediately. And it could, you know, there's some Terran players that do the weird thing where they'll hide it, but you see the double gas. And sometimes you'll see that it's like, okay, they hide it. They build the Reaper proxy and they build the factory back home. But Epic, he's going to throw it on the bunker up front with this Reaper. He's playing around this rock position so that the probe can't really too easily get over to it.
Well, at first it was weird because there's two SCVs chasing. Okay, no, there
are.
It's just still weird.
But don't worry, we're on NA Challenger now, guys. don't get it misconstrued.
Sometimes it's just a challenge just to play the game, I guess. But that Reaper does get inside the bunker. And there's even a, well, that's a factory,
he spots the proxy factory, so he knows everything that's going on. The Zealot's going to get 2 SCVs now.
Every SCV that dies is actually a big deal because they're needed to repair the bunker or even complete the factory, worst case scenario. But the Reaper is going to head and clear up the Zealot. A couple of shield batteries going down. In fact, yeah, 2. An additional pylon in case that dies.
And this probe still has 2 SCVs chasing it.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is actually just bad. I mean, I can understand one chasing it because you want to know where that probe goes in case it starts building something.
Maybe you're worried that the probe is going to like tase you and then shield regen, but no, you don't have to.
You don't send to.
So because of that SCV count being thin that you talked about, the SCVs can't really repair each other either.
Yep.
So the Stalker just steps forward. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to chew up as much of the health on this as I can because as soon as you hurt me, I just go for the shield battery. He is focusing on the pylon, but the shield battery can heal the pylon too.
Yep.
So
the SCVs were executed, so this is just nothing. And the factory on this other side of the map is making a Cyclone, but there's already Stalkers, there's already shield batteries, there's the things you would want to answer for that. So this is just kind of falling on its face. And this, you know what, this kind of is reminiscent of like old Brood War matches with like Nada and I Love Uv back in the day where these players were faced with this Titan, and you just can't play normal. So my heart goes out to Epic because...
We're not trying to make him look bad. No, we're just saying that Neeb is so good that he does look bad because Neeb is an amazing player.
Well, that's part of it too, but when you cheese and it doesn't work, it also looks terrible.
Yeah, it also
That's just something that is part of StarCraft.
Yeah.
And everyone, you know, it's this terrible thing too because cheese is like looked down upon, so it's a kind of a weird spot, but I'm trying to give...
If he found a way to keep the SCVs alive from the Zealot earlier on, maybe he can get a little bit more like sustained if the workers can heal each other, but...
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about like the plight of the pro gamer. You're up against a Titan, you got a cheese. When the cheese fails, you look terrible. I've been there before. That's what I'm trying to get
this right here is the worst feeling in the world. GG Neeb takes the first map against Epic. And yeah.
That's it. And then we're put in this funny spot too, because I've been here.
Trying to be an impartial commentator, well...
You have to kind of move past it, because there's not a lot to say, because you said it all in the game where you're like, yeah, this cheese didn't work, he died.
Yeah.
And then we're doing what you just did, where you're like, if the SCVs survive, maybe he can. And it's like, no, he can't. And everyone knows that. Everyone's like, no, he can't.
No, he can't.
But we also can't talk about Battletoads, because Tasteless took care of that in Korea like 4 years ago, so then we're just kind of like...
So, guys, how about that sunrise? Think the sun went up?
What do you think he could do in his next game, Nathaniel?
He's going to try again.
Maybe he can have one SCV chase the probe.
It's tough. And that's a hard map, too, to start on, by the way. It's a gigantic map, which typically does favor Protoss. It's got a pocket expansion.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where Protoss like the map pool. They're comfortable in the meta. This guy's way, he's just not on the same level as Neeb. So Neeb goes into this game and goes, he's probably going to cheese me. Yeah. So that's why he probe scouts.
The best way to look at this group, honestly, is the other 3 players. There is the chance for an upset of Jon Snow over Neeb. Sure, whatever. But I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to these guys want to just get a chance where they only have to play against each other. Epic and Future, they want to have to beat each other and beat Jon Snow.
If someone could beat Jon Snow, get into the top.
NA, the way that a lot of NA players will do mech strategies and certain cheeses they're usually much better versus Zerg than they are against Protoss, and even in mirror matchup actually as well, they're better going up against Zerg than another Terran. So I think that you can't really be upset. Epic should really be thinking about the other matches in this group a lot more, because Neeb is so difficult to beat. And he's the only Protoss.
Yeah. And normally this is where I give my speech, which I've given a lot of times before too, where it's like all the pressure's off of Epic. You know, he can do whatever he wants.
We're just doing the caster thing now, right? Where it's like, well, so he can just play normally, and maybe because he'll have no stress, you know, he'll open up his chakra gates and become ascended.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. My point's actually, the Challenger system is actually so brutal because you only have a few best of 3s to advance and to be in this tournament, and you actually qualified for this tournament. So it is that way, and I agree with you, Nate, but it's also not. It's really tough.
Yeah. Well, the next game has started, and we are seeing this once again. Just trying to highlight here. Since I'm a bad observer, you know, just going straight to that worker and following it. We have in the bottom right Epic. He is going for another proxy. He really doesn't have too many other options. I wouldn't want to play a long game against this guy. In the top left, our Red Protoss player Neeb, who's leading this series, and he's just very good, very solid, very strong all around. I think what makes Neeb really stand out, outside of all of his skill in championships, is the way that he plays, and he is not like many other historic Protoss players in that he has made a lot of his success off of playing amazing macro games and amazing mirror matchup, but not like one of those, you know, we don't think of him as like, oh yeah, he did the immortal 4-gate zealot push that just like won in 3 tournaments. Like, no, he actually just played straight up macro and beat, you know, top tier Koreans in long games.
And he's won in all 3 regions, which is a very big deal. Yeah. He won in Korea, he won in Europe, and he of course wins in North America. As the stats showed there, in 2017 he was a 3-time circuit champion. That's, and you know, WCS is, well, it's not new, you wouldn't call it that, but it's not the oldest thing. It hasn't been here since the beginning of StarCraft, but in that time, nobody's done that.
Yeah, the circuit has evolved, or, you know, WCS itself in terms of the format and whatnot, but, you know, we talk about the caliber of players that we have at these tournaments, and winning 3 of them is no small feat.
It's huge. Absolutely massive. So once again, the probe gets in here, sees the double gas, and sees little else. What you do have going for Epic is that he's doing a different look at this. So he is changing things up a little bit, but now this probe even scouts this, so the bad kind of gets worse. And we're going to have something like an early Reaper perhaps make its way into the main base, but Neeb is Neeb. And I feel like I will only say it a couple of times because you can say it to everything, but it just feels futile.
Yeah. Adept is on the way now for Neeb. He starts his warp gate. He's going to chrono boost that bad boy out and just keeping the probe harassing on the other side of the map. He saw that Epic clearly wasn't that interested in trying to micro against it before, so Neeb pulls back, pushes away the Reaper, which has just gotten its first kill, manages to pick off a second probe, but remember the commitment, of course, that he made here. He won't have a lot back, and that Reaper is DED. So Adept is going to make its way out. There's another Reaper, but he's going to build another Adept, so it's not too big of a deal. And we have a Cyclone being added with a starport back home.
And no command center. The double gas was scouted, so it just becomes, and you can even see he's changing that up too. He's gonna, no, he's landing the bear. Excuse me, that's not a tech switch. I guess my point is, Neeb knows an attack is coming. You go double gas like that, the Reaper doesn't get you much. You don't follow that up with a CC and just say, well, I'm just gonna be behind massively economically. You have to kind of go for the kill. But Neeb already knows. That's a really tough spot.
Yep. The probe manages to come back safe and sound. So the barracks is going home. We have a we have a medevac coming out of the starport. We have a Stargate coming out for Neeb. But So what do you think? Okay, Oracle?
I think Oracle. I mean, yeah, we saw the
Phoenix are also really good against Cyclones, and you can crank them out crazy fast.
Yeah. Honestly, anything off of that, even a Void Ray, which is by far the worst option of all of those, is massive here.
Yeah, that would still do it.
The medevac is probably to micro the Cyclone. We've seen that before, or just drop it straight up in the main. But like I was saying, almost any tech off that Stargate is going to be harmful. The Oracle is actually probably the best thing Epic could see coming off of this.
Yeah.
But even then, if the Oracle just goes across the map and Neeb's like able to survive this with this Phoenix coming out, oh, it is going to come back though. He's taking it serious.
He spots it with the Oracle. He wants to come back. So Epic's going to drop these 2 Cyclones. He's going to work away on the Warp Gate on the south side, so the Adepts can't get close enough to shoot. Even the Stalker back home won't be able to do anything. One Cyclone does get its initial volley off on the Oracle, but it will be able to regenerate its shields in no time. And I think seeing that there are Stargate units at play, he's like, I'm just going to go home. I'm going to come back. But Neeb, he's already thinking about the next step that he's going to take in this game.
It's amazing where we're at in StarCraft because, you know, Challenger does have these kind of mismatches. That is the flavor of this. Epic's story does not end here. It's only going to get developed. But Neeb has that feeling of like these top-tier Koreans that we've seen in the past where it was like, lol, it's MC versus the round of 32 guy that barely made out of the bracket. It kind of had these feels of just every choice they make, every micro they maneuver just feels correct. It feels right. And when you're winning, it just seems to be contagious.
That skill gap feels like a giant chasm when you're looking at the North American region because the disparity between the top end and even the mid end is huge. There are just not a lot of very competitive players that you'll find from the North American region. So when you have a guy as good as Neeb, almost everyone they look like a joke compared to him. He's just that good. So this one, Widowmine's going to grab a Stalker. The Cyclones have been brought home, but Neeb wants to bring the pressure. He wants to attack. He's got the Phoenix hitting the right side. They're going to pick off the Viking as the Oracle coming in from the back, and the Cyclones are going to try to lock onto it. But now the Phoenix are here to lift them up. SCVs will get pulled, and there is nothing that is going to stop this. The Oracle able to blast away is going to really help. He needed to focus that down. He was not able to kill it, and that's it. Neeb just bulldozes him.
Beautifully executed. He makes it look easier than it is. I promise you, Neeb seals the deal. It's a 2-0 victory. Pretty straightforward. Like we were saying, unfortunately, there are going to be those mismatches, and this group's a little bit lopsided in that Neeb, to be fair, Neeb's so good that he makes otherwise very highly recognized pro players look a lot like that. So for Epic, this was a very rough first match.
If you play North American ladder, Epic is a very good Terran player that has a lot of skills. He's not like an I cheese every game kind of guy. He's like I'm good enough to know that Neeb is so much better than me that I have to cheese him. I have to do something that's going to really just be very sharp, and even if he scouts it, difficult to hold.
And that puts him in a tough spot because both players know that, right? Like Neeb doesn't go into this and go, oh, you're cheesing me. He goes, I think this player's going to try some cheesy stuff. I'm going to play safe. I'm going to scout. Then I'm going to execute. And Neeb is just a mismatch that way. So Neeb does advance on into that winner's match. We unfortunately say to Epic, you're going to have to wait a moment here for this next pairing. But it was a good series in the sense that we see Neeb is in form, because that is something that's happened before as well, as Neeb shows up and doesn't impress, but he looks like he's taking names. Yeah,
he had a good breakfast this morning. He's ready to go. It's afternoon by the time over there. So we're going to get into our next game after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the World Championship Series, North America. Don't go anywhere. We got some Terran versus Zerg. It's going to be Jon Snow versus Future.